Yummy. Alright guys, so I actually have a tape review to do for you today. Yes, a tape review. This was put out by the Uneasy Archive. If you haven't heard of them, I did a little overview of the company and their releases and stuff in my last video, so go check that out. I'm not going to sit here and explain it all. You can just watch that other videos. I'm going to do a review of the one that they released latest, which is the Poughkeepsie tapes. This has actually never been officially released in any format. It was supposed to come out in theaters in 2008 and I think on DVD in 2009, but it never did. Why? I don't know. But it actually almost lends a hint of reality to the movie, and I'll explain why. Basically, the film is a mockumentary about a serial killer in Poughkeepsie, New York. And throughout the documentary, they basically tell you, about his murders and the events that unfolded for them to be able to find the Poughkeepsie tapes, which basically are his home movies of him doing his work, if you will. That the term they always say about serial killers. They're doing their work, whatever. But he pretty much lets them find his home, and the only thing in the home are these tapes, boxes and boxes of tapes, and they all have his crimes on them. And so it's basically a mockumentary / found footage movie, because they intersplice footage from these tapes into the mockumentary, so basically the film is about him and his crimes and how things led up to them finding the tapes, and he has in the film the killer was never caught. So and then after the tapes, I gotta say I really liked this. Uneasy's whole thing is sort of they for the most part they've been doing sort of rough pornos, kind of uneasy adult films, but this was their first real release of a non-porno film. They did release 555. It was a joke thing. Go watch the other video, you'll understand. And I gotta say, I was really pleased with this flick. I wouldn't say it's disturbing in any way. I don't really think any of the found footage stuff is all that disturbing. There's a couple scenes where there's a girl kind of tied up and she's screaming a lot, and it's a little, I guess, a little bit unnerving. But to me, what's uneasy about the film or unsettling is the atmosphere that it gives off. It's a really creepy flick. There's just this sense of dread throughout the whole thing, and it starts right off the bat and doesn't let up. It's very fast paced, and the music in this thing, man, that is what really I think drives this sort of creepy, unsettling atmosphere. It's really subtle and not overproduced, but it's so effective. It's so effective. I really love the way that it's the silent hero of this thing, to be honest. But if this, let me just say, it's not just the music. If this killer was real, he would be the most prolific, the most dangerous, the most intelligent serial killer the world has ever seen. He would be the most dangerous man alive. And whoever portrays the serial killer, you never see his face, only under a mask, only under a plague doctor's mask, which I didn't know that's what they were called. I'd seen these masks before, but my buddy was like, "That, yeah, this is what this is," and then, Google and whatever, figuring out the rest of it. So we never see his face unless it's behind a plague doctor's mask. And he does a really good job because he kind of has to do the whole thing with his voice, because you never see his face, and when you do, it's behind a mask, so he can't really there's only so much acting, I guess, he can really do other than what he says. And there's a couple lines in this that are pretty unnerving, and my favorite one is, he's got a girl in the back of his car. He's not posed as a policeman, but for whatever reason, I guess because of the car, because he happens to be driving a detective's car or an off-duty police car, the ones that don't really have any markings, but if you looked, you'd see the grate between the front and the back seat. Well, he's driving one of those, and there's a girl on the side of the road that her car's broken down, and he picks her up, and she instantly calls him officer. And he gets her in the back, and they're driving, and they pass the turn for the gas station she wants to go to. And so she says, "You missed the turn." And he goes, "Let me ask you a question." He doesn't even say anything about missing the turn. He goes, "Let me ask you a question. Why did you call me officer?" And she says, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, when you got in, you said officer. Why did you call me officer?" She starts kind of giving this sort of really nervous kind of giggle. He goes, "I'm not a cop." And in the film, at this point, this killer has been given the name the Water Street Butcher. And right as he pulls up when he pulls up to her in the beginning, he goes, "You shouldn't be out here all alone, Water Street Butcher, being out and about and all." And so when they're in the car, and he goes, I'm not a police officer." And she goes, "Well, who are you?" And he goes, "I'm the butcher." She starts kind of getting nervous, and she starts pleading for her life, saying that she's, got a family and all this stuff. And he goes, "Okay, all right, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to rape you. And if you don't give me any trouble, you don't make any noise, you just let me do it, basically, I'll let you live." And she it's this kind of look on her face. You can tell she's processing it. She goes, "Okay." He goes, "No, you're never going to let me do that." She goes, "Yes, I will. I promise, I promise, I promise." And he stops the car, and you can tell he's turning around, because you can see his arm kind of go like this. And you don't see his face, but he says, "Neither of us are going to want you alive after the things I'm going to do to you." And the way he delivers that line, man, is so fucking creepy and disturbing. It was awesome. So this guy, whoever played him, does a really good job at sort of almost voice acting in a way, because it's kind of what he has to do. The found footage stuff in the films, not all that crazy. There's a couple things in it that are. It's more creepy, honestly. It's more creepy and atmospheric to me than it is disturbing. There are a couple downfalls in acting. There's a female FBI agent that's in the beginning. She's not in it very much, but she's just fucking terrible. She is awful, and I'm glad that she wasn't in it for very long. There's a guy that plays a dismemberment expert, which is actually recognizable. I've seen him in commercials, and he kind of does this sort of joking manner when he's talking about dismembering bodies, and it just sort of takes you out of the film for a minute, but luckily he's only in one scene. There's a friend of one of the victims that says a few lines that are a little cheesy and kind of not something that someone would actually say in real life if they were being interviewed for a documentary on a serial killer that your friend was murdered by. and then there's a police officer's son that's kind of shaky. But for the most part, the acting is pretty solid and believable. But I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed it. If you guys can find it out there, anywhere, I'm sure somewhere you probably find a bootleg or something. It's a real shame that this movie hasn't been released. And the fact that it hasn't, the end line actually makes this movie even creepier because it hasn't been released. And I'm not going to say what's said at the end, but it actually makes the movie a much more impactful. And it makes you kind of wonder if there's a reason why it hasn't been released in any real format. Maybe this was just a way for them to sort of an extra selling point on the flick and make it that much more realistic, because it really does make it much more realistic that it hasn't been released, especially the way that this thing ends. So if you guys can track it down, I would certainly suggest trying to track it down. I really enjoyed it, especially if you're into found footage stuff, if you're into mockumentaries. This is not, though, the August Underground fans and stuff, this is not that kind of serial killer found footage movie. It's not that kind of graphic. It's honestly not graphic really at all. It's just there's a few unsettling scenes, and like I said before, it's more of an atmospheric, creepy uneasiness, unsettling feeling to it. But really enjoyed it. Glad I have it. And that's it, guys. Poughkeepsie Tapes. Thumbs up from this guy. So that's it. Going to be posting DVD VHS update and then my uneasy video and this. So we got a lot going on at the moment. So there we go. We'll have another. I don't have any reviews planned in the future right now. So just go watch those, and I'll have an update, DVD update, fairly soon actually. So I'm out. Have a good day.